Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. And welcome to a new episode. It's good to be here. It's good to be tuning in with you guys here for another weekly episode, having a conversation one-to-one, dropping some thoughts and some perspectives. I'm heading back to Bali. By the time this episode's out, I might actually be at Bali, which is super cool. I have a few amazing conversations lined up, planned, in the pipeline, so it's going to be exciting to bring some guests back onto the show. I've had a bit of a guest hiatus whilst being in Australia. It's actually been quite difficult to get people to come down to Wollongong, and then I've been just very much cultivating an amazing routine within my own training and my own life that I haven't been traveling for the podcast. Now, naturally, based on what you prioritize, something elevates, something decreases. My training, my physique, my mental health, my progress and my growth has elevated, but the podcast has kind of decreased or taken a bit of a step back because it stepped back as a priority. Now, you tuned in because you saw what the episode is titled. This is probably one of the most passionate topics I have within this space outside of the whole topic and dynamic of helping other humans, which this actually ties in with quite extensively. So today I feel like might be filled up with some hot takes, maybe a few controversial opinions and thoughts. I didn't know if I wanted to approach this in the light of calling out coaches or if I wanted to approach this in the light of informing and educating you based on the vulnerabilities and naiveties you might have around coaches. I think I'm going to do a little bit of both, and I think there's a good balance in there. Because I'm talking about this topic, I'm not sitting here approaching this as if I am the be-all and end-all. When someone talks about a topic that's controversial, a leading from the front type topic, calling out other coaches, normally you take the opinion being, I think I'm better than everyone else, and that is not the case. I think I hold an amazing level of coaching skill, application, systems, and potential. I also see myself as a very authentic and true to who I am person, and I think that's what elevates and rises me above the bulk of norm. But today's episode, we are talking all things coaches and how coaches are frauds. I can't tell you how many times I have wanted to quit coaching because of the fact that to be a coach, you have to be in the coaching industry. You have to be part of the community that is coaching itself. And I think this community is beyond fucking embarrassing. I think it is full of frauds, fakes, liars, manipulators, and very, very in it for themselves individuals. Now, there might be a few coaches that tune in, or maybe some clients of coaches that will find some of these aspects sensitive and good, because I'm not doing this episode to be an absolute asshole. I am doing this to elevate the standard and to highlight what is unknown. Do I personally think this episode alone is going to evolve and alter and change the coaching industry? No, I do not. But it might change one coach's approach, and it might help you dictate and decide who you go with or how much information you absorb online. The barrier to entry with coaching is minimal. It's pretty frictionless. For health and fitness, it's maybe 6 months of fast track qualifications. For business, it is fuck all. For everything else, whether it's sex, money, relationships, friendships, routine, structures, mindset, there's a coach for every problem and every solution, which I do think is nice, but I think that's what makes it so risky, because anyone can decide to be a coach. Now, two things I want to state to preface this episode. A coach, in my perspective, is no better than someone that has gone from A to B and solved that problem or created a pathway. That is all we are. I have never once seen myself as a guru or some intellectual or intelligent being better or more than what the average person is. I have just solved a problem for myself, and then I have been able to guide and help hundreds, if not thousands, of other individuals on similar problems or based on similar dynamics. I think that's where coaches go wrong. They elevate themselves above the general pop or the everyday person and pedestal their own self, that they are better than everyone else. It's not true. It's actually bullshit, and I do not like that approach. We have solved an A to B problem, and we have the potential to help other people. Now, that is like the first dynamic around coaches. The second thing is coaches often coach from their own trauma, which maybe you could have assumed that and thought of that, and maybe this is a groundbreaking thought for you right now. A coach is just someone that has coached their own self through their own trauma, or they've cultivated enough knowledge, wisdom, and systems or pathways, and that is where their coaching often comes from. Given, like I said in the first rule, if we've solved an A to B problem, often it's around our trauma, our struggles, or roadblocks in our life. So that's why we coach what we coach. That is why embodiment is so important when opting for a good coach or a leader or someone to guide you. But also, do you align with this individual and their story? Now, again, you guys know my story well. My father passed away. I partied a bit when I was younger. I did a lot of things I did through self-hatred. I was very steam trained, my way or the highway. That's my story, and it's in a massive, really short, contracted, tight nutshell. There's a lot of parts in that you could relate to, whether you've lost a significant person in your life, or you have partied and operated through self-disrespect and self-hatred, and you want to get out of that. They are the types of individuals I attract. People who want to show up for their future self. I lived a life for so long not showing up for my future self. I got myself from A to B. I now show up for my future self, embody and live through self-respect. People connect with that. Again, I'm coaching out of my own struggles and the solutions I've created. That's why you have to be careful when deciding and picking a coach, because often I see coaches and leaders operating on topics that is their own struggle, and they think they solved the A to B, but they haven't. Now, there's A to B to B 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. There's levels and there's distances. And have I solved the ultimate self-respect and future self way of living? No, because I don't think you can. But I have mastered the ability to continuously evolve and elevate the standard around that way of living and through that dynamic. What I see all the time is a coach makes a minor breakthrough on a massive topic, and they think they can then go and preach the gospel of whatever it is they overcame and have a massive say and dictation in other individuals' lives. Coaches who have struggled with drinking in the past, they might then coach people around that topic of drinking. But if they're still drinking now, I don't necessarily think they are in the position or a good position to coach. And I see this a lot with coaches around weight loss. You see there was an arising in the body positivity movement around coaches mastering a brand of being a bigger guy or a bigger girl, or, parent coaching. If you're a parent, you can only be the person to teach and coach other parents. Or if you've struggled with weight loss, you can only be the person to teach and coach individuals with weight loss. And there is a nice essence of relatability and understanding that, yes, if you are a parent, you could be better suited to coach other parents than a 16-year-old PT fresh out of school. But it doesn't make you the only person that can do so. And the thing I've noticed with a lot of coaches is they'll make a small breakthrough. They might alter and change their life 30 to 40%, and they've still got a long 60% road ahead. But they're coaching individuals around that topic. And that's where the risk comes into play. Because again, coaches coach out of their own trauma and struggles. If you've lost 10 kilos and you want to lose another 10, but you're struggling to lose the other 10, I don't think necessarily you're in a position to be coaching individuals around that topic to the intensity of what I say is the way because I've lost weight. My system is the way because I'm the one in the midst of it. Now, I've gone slightly off the pathway I wanted to actually knuckle on. So let me bring myself back. You have to be careful around where the coach is at in their own journey, their knowledge, their wisdom, and their skill. You'll see a very shredded male or female on Instagram and think, I want to work with that individual. They look great. Yet they could have the worst relationship with their own self or their body, the worst relationship with food or movement. So if you're going with that coach, they're projecting their negative relationship onto you with the systems they teach. They might not eat dinner after 7 and think that's the be all and end all because they don't have a good relationship with food and their knowledge isn't up to standard. You're probably going to be told to do that. And that's where it gets risky. Now, I've seen this arise massively in business coaches. Someone works for themselves for a year or two and they make decent money, or they have one period of time that they made $3,000 a week. So they think I'm earning 150K a year, which just is not the case. But because they've made a little breakthrough with business and they're probably struggling with it still their own self, they're going to start coaching around business because it's a projection of what they're struggling with. So they want to teach other individuals. I don't actually know what the psychological rule that is. But I guess it's almost like a juvenile Dunning-Kruger effect. You make some impact and progress in an area and you think you know everything to go and teach individuals. I instantly think when I see business coaches, the first question I'd ask is, do they have a multi-successful run of years in business? Have they worked in multiple businesses? And are they in a very good position? Someone that makes 200 grand a year should not be business coaching just because you make 200 grand a year and the average person might make 70 grand a year. That's the dissonance, the misalignment that I really struggle with in the coaching industry, that you do one thing kind of okay that most people don't do well. And because you're a little bit ahead of everyone, you think you can coach everyone around it. And that for me doesn't sit right. I don't like it. Because of the fact that you've clocked onto something that made a little bit of a difference beyond the norm, and you know everyone's sitting in the norm and the Gen Pop is now vulnerable and susceptible to the information you say and the information given out because you're making some factors of progress, again, out of the average pool. So if everyone makes 70 grand a year and you've made 120 grand, people are probably going to be too vulnerable to look into that and think, wow, they're making more than me, doing better than me. I need to go with that individual. Yet them becoming your business coach because they're doing a little bit better, you probably should be going with the wise older individual, the person who has failed business and succeeded and now has a run of multiple businesses or has been in the game for a long, long time. If I by some chance lose 5 kilos, no, I can't technically go and coach everyone on how to lose weight. That's where I differentiate leading and coaching and someone taking advantage of vulnerable people. Now, I do think as a coach in the health and fitness space, you do have to have done some factors and essence of what you're teaching, because how would you know if you haven't? But for me to help a client lose 20 kilos, I don't have to have lost 20 kilos myself. But what I do need to have done is lose some form of weight, know what it's like to go on low calories and high calories, master the disciplines and the systems and adherence, try a range of different things. That then probably allows me to coach someone if I've done that for a while. You don't see that though. And you don't see it often enough. And I do think everyone should start to open their eyes a little bit about the resume of the person you're working with and how intensive and extensive it is. Now, I've seen some online coaches work with thousands and thousands of people. And just because they've worked with thousands of people, I disagree with a lot of their systems. Because again, thousands and thousands of vulnerable people, 1 in every 50 make a change. They work with thousands. They've got 30 changes up on their social media. Wow, they're killing it, coach. I'm going to go with them. But what they're teaching you isn't necessarily a good thing. And then you might be sitting here going, well, fuck me, guy. You're just putting all this knowledge and information into my mind and you're making it super confusing. And it's difficult. It is difficult. That's why you need to research and connect and align to the coach and know their story and see how they show up. Do as I do, have done, or continue to do, not as I tell you to do. And what I mean by that is, who am I to tell you to be disciplined if I can't be disciplined in my own life? Now, I know how to run. I'm not a marathon runner. Could I coach someone to run a marathon? Maybe. Probably not my best area of expertise. But I know what it's like to be a runner when you're not a good runner. I know what it's like to push the threshold. I know what it's like to have hard weeks and good weeks. So the range of experience, I guess, could qualify a coach. But then how do you know the range of someone's experience? You probably don't. You just need to see the consistency of how they show up. Now, one of the biggest concepts I've been thinking of for a long, long time is embodiment. I used to not embody what I'd say. Now I do. The impact is vastly greater and it reaches further and it changes lives beyond the depth I've ever reached before. Your coach doesn't have to be doing at face value what you're doing for you to work with them. I don't need to be in a fat loss phase to coach you on fat loss. Do I need to have probably done something like that in the past? Yeah, you would. That would maybe increase some qualification points to that coach. But there's this abstract concept of embodying what you need seen through your coach. And what I'm talking about is I see a lot of coaches, let's just say health and fitness to keep it simple, because that is my area of expertise and it is what I've been coaching for the last 8 years. They will tell their client to be consistent. Just go to the gym, rock up, 4 or 4, just do your sessions. It's easy. Like, just be consistent. It's not that hard. Now, the coach is saying that because they are consistent with the gym. But the gym comes easy to them now. So, of course, they're going to be consistent and they're going to be frustrated that their client finds it hard to do what they do. However, it's not about the face value. It's about the dynamic in the background. So I'm terrified of heights. I've worked with clients in the past that is terrified of filming in the gym. Now, I find filming in the gym easy as fuck. So I could sit here and go, it's so easy. Just face your fear. I do it every week. But the abstract concept is, I don't find it hard. They find it incredibly hard and scary to do. It's a fear of theirs. So let me relate to that fear in something I find scary and fearful. A jump rock. Me telling them just to film a video, it's easy, is a projection of me finding it easy. The same thing with them saying to me, just jump off the jump rock, it's easy. It's like, oh, wait a second, okay. It's actually not as easy for me to jump off this jump rock. Why? Because it's a fear of mine. Like filming in the gym is a fear of theirs. Who am I to tell them to face their fear if when presented with an opportunity to face mine, I can't face it? Think of that for a moment. I really hope I'm communicating this concept well. You need to even the playing field of relativity, not the thing at face value. So they're terrified and fearful of filming. I'm not. Of course, I'll find it easy. But let's put me as a coach into a position I'm terrified and fearful of doing a jump rock. When presented with that fear, would I be able to do it? Now, I would, personally because it's something I strategically think of all the time to create more relatability and understanding and a depth beyond what's needed for my clients. So I would, because who am I to tell people to face their fear if when presented with it, I can't? So by me facing my ultimate fear, heights, jumping off a jump rock, I now feel like I have a leg to stand on when giving advice and assistance / support and encouragement around facing their fear. Yet if I cowered away and was scared to face my fear every single time I was presented with the opportunity, who am I to tell them to face theirs? Just do it. Get over it. It's like, I can't even do that myself. Now, I see this a lot with, like I was saying just before, the word consistency. If you're a coach in the fitness industry, I'd hope you'd be consistent, which surprisingly, a lot of people aren't. And I am incredibly embarrassed by that. If you're choosing to be a leader, a self-opted, you've put yourself in that position and you're not leading, it's ludicrous. So consistency, right? I find going to the gym super easy. It's part of who I am. It's a non-negotiable. There is a certain period and amount of hours in a day that are delegated to the gym regardless of what is on or over the week. I find being consistent with the gym easy. A client of mine might not. It might be something they find really, really, really fucking hard. I find it easy, they don't. Who am I to tell them to be consistent in something they find incredibly hard? So again, the abstract concept, let's even the playing field here. What do I find incredibly hard? I find incredibly hard. What's an example I could give now? Let's maybe not use me because I don't want to sit here for 2 minutes thinking. I actually can't think of something on the top of my head. There are definitely things in my life I do find hard, but they might be a little bit too difficult as an analogy to understand. So a lot of coaches find posting on social media hard, difficult. Fair enough, it can be, for sure. If the coach finds posting on social media really difficult and hard, and they're not consistent in that pursuit, who the fuck are they to tell their client to just be consistent in what the client finds incredibly hard? Now, this is where that embodiment and that ownership of pointing back to us really, really comes to fruition. It really has the spotlight shone on it. Who am I to tell someone to do something when in relativity, I find it hard myself? And that is where I think a lot of coaches lack that depth of thought. They think, I go to the gym, everyone else should, or I find it easy, why don't you? It's like, okay, so what do you find hard? I find doing this hard. Are you consistent in it? No. Okay. That doesn't make sense then. And that's where I think because the standard of thrive in individuals' lives these days are so low. I don't know the statistic on it. I don't know if you could put a statistic on a statement like that. But I know it would be very, very rare in today's day and age. Everyone is really, truly happy with who they are, how they live, the goals they're achieving, and where they're going. So yes, anything anyone says that's not an echo chamber towards biasing the negativity and the bad things we're all doing, it's going to create some impact. And that's where the vulnerability aspect comes into play. Because one basic thing said from a person doing a little bit above the norm, a very, very, very vulnerable individual could soak all that in and think that person's going to change their life. Yet that person is struggling with so many things they probably shouldn't be talking about or coaching or giving out advice with. But the client doesn't know any better. And that's what's super scary. That is what is super scary. I've seen PTs, I differentiate PTs and coaches heavily, but I've seen PTs in the past give an abysmal, half-assed service, and the client thinks it's the best thing ever. And that is so heartbreaking to me because the client doesn't know any better. The standard they're getting is horseshit. But they think it's amazing because they don't know any better. And it's a risky topic that can advocate both sides, because then the statement might be, yeah, but if they think what they're getting is great, it's working for them. It's changing their life. It's helping them. I agree. And I think every coach can play a role in every journey. There's a chapter a lot of coaches could play. And if your standard is really, really bad, being treated a little less bad probably feels like the best thing ever. Or if you undersell a lot of things and finally experience something that's sold under a little less, you probably think it's the best thing ever. And that's where it comes down to the agenda of the coach, the ignorance the coach has, or the malice manipulation the coach is operating through. And again, I think if you're a leader, self-nominated, a coach, a guide, a leader, someone people look to for support, someone that is breaking out of the normal in a self-nominated position, I think it is your responsibility to not be ignorant to those things. But ignorance can kind of decrease the malice someone might be operating through. Oh, yeah, I didn't know I should be better, so I'm not actually taking advantage of this person. It's like, yeah, okay. That is a truthful statement. Do I think it's good enough? No, I don't. But it is a truthful statement. So ignorance, I think, also then allows me to advocate for some of the coaches up and coming that are trying, that are failing and fucking up and learning. I think intention is a heavy dictator of the quality of coach you are, and whether you're one of these coaches I'm kind of listing as not great or one of the coaches that are great. Because there's a point in time I was so shit, so bad. Why I'm so good now is because I was so shit and so bad. But intention's what matters. If you can consciously clock onto the fact that I can charge a higher rate, give a mediocre service, not really put in a lot of effort, not really embody a lot of what I'm teaching, but it's impactful enough and they wouldn't hear it every day, so it seems like I'm a good coach, that is really gross. Really gross. Whereas if you're a coach and you're not the most knowledgeable, you're fucking up, you're making some mistakes, but you're trying to be better, you're trying to learn, your intention is to help people at the core, you're wanting to embody this amazing person and be a leader, I think that is beautiful. Now, you might not make the most impact on people's lives, but again, it's not one coach changes someone's life forever and is the be all and end all. You might actually really significantly impact someone's life at that point in time. Then they might go on to a coach that either sits above you or knows more than you or is more skilled in a specific area. There are coaches that sit above me. There are coaches that sit below me that could have an amazing impact in the lives of the clients I work with, because we play a role in a chapter. My role in chapter I see in a lot of individuals' lives is future self and self-respect and elevating the standard. That is what I embody. Now, that covers a lot of bases, and I've done that on purpose. But there might be a coach that talks about, it's tough to say, but talks about, having fun and not showing up for your future self and not operating through self-respect, that probably could have a positive role in that individual's life, because if you lean both ends of the scales, you can come into the middle. I do try and cover the basis of both because I think a good coach does cover that field, but I try to do it in a way where it's significantly focusing on one area. And there's another whole episode I could do on this where you see coaches transition from fitness and then into sex coaching and then into business coaching and then into shadow work coaching and then into the next thing. It's like you see a coach go from fitness and PT into coaching coaches, into coaching courses, into being a business coach. And yes, you're allowed to grow and pivot and transition. But at what point are you just branching out into the next thing, or are you talking about topics and areas you probably shouldn't? I am very, very skeptical about a coach that has rebranded 10 different times. How is it once business, then sex, then shadow work, then back to fitness, then back into coaching coaches and courses? It doesn't sit right with me. There's just a gross feeling about that. And the place I love the most, Bali, is really full of that. There's a nice thing called manifesting, where you speak in a projection of what maybe isn't happening yet or what hasn't happened. But some people and coaches do it in a way that's actually just taking advantage and being manipulative to other individuals. It's fine to say I'm going to have the biggest podcast in the world one day. It's fine to say I'm going to be earning multi-hundred thousands or impacting thousands of lives. Like, manifest it, speak it, build it, curate it. But if I'm sitting here saying I'm earning multi-8-figure years or multi-6-figure months or impacting 10,000s of lives, as in I'm pre-manifesting what actually isn't happening, and by doing that, it cultivates everyone to perceive that of you, and then that kind of pushes you in that direction. I think that is manipulation. And again, another complete topic that could be talked about is sales versus just authenticity and helping. Coaches, there's two types of coaches. You authentically help, and as a result of that, you have a good income, a great business, and you're earning good money, or you're a strategic salesperson. I remember when I first got into the industry, I was taught sales like crazy. The minute someone reaches out, get them in that day and do the best you can to surface their emotions and make the consult as emotional as possible so they feel the pull to sign up then and there and make the financial commitment. Blows my mind how opposite I coach of that now. The things I always say in a consult: I'm not the cheapest coach because I highly value my work. You're not allowed to sign up today because I do not want you making a decision based on a heat of the moment. I want it to be a true thought about and calculated process. And you need to either see this as an investment or not, because if it's an expense and a weekly add-on, I don't want to work with you. So I literally almost advocate not to work with me so much. So then when someone sees through that, fucking hell, it creates magic. Because they're ready, they're wanting to, they're excited, and they're very, very, very set stone in what they're doing. They didn't sign up on some emotional bullshit or some heat of the moment or some sales pitch. It's just, this is your struggle. I can definitely play a role in helping that. I highly value my work and time. This is what I charge. Do you want to collaborate and get together, or do you not? Yes or no? Fuck yes or fuck no, because there is just no in between. That type of dynamic around the sales or the authenticity heavily ties in with coaches that run 8-week challenges, 12-week challenges, prize money at the end of a challenge. I don't want to turn this podcast into a rant, but I think a coach is there to lead and genuinely have an impact in transforming your life and putting you first and doing what's best for you, not what's best for their marketing or their income or their life. I think the best for the coach comes as a byproduct of holding the client first. But fucking hell, in what world does being given $2,000 prize money, winning a fat loss challenge, embody anything of what a coach should embody? I think it's like disgusting. And the tough thing around that is that's what sells. The same reason you're in the struggle, doing things how you feel, doing things you want to do now, not later, is now actually linked in with the reward you get after doing some work. You're not doing a fat loss challenge to build self-respect and learn amazing systems and tools and be genuinely supported and handheld through a very vulnerable and tough time to bring an amazing outcome. You are being pushed to lose as much fat as possible and look visually different. So there's a marketing aspect there. And hey, by the way, we've learned no self-respect, no systems, no tools, but great, you've lost the weight and now here's $2,000 cash for you to just go back to where you started. And that's the tricky thing with coaching. Like there needs to be incentive. But I think when it comes to fitness and health, it's our duty of care to educate and incite, the incentive being the life they live, the result they get long term, not $2,000 cash because they started doing all this bullshit that they haven't been doing for the last however long. I think challenges and prize money and all those things, it's just so dirty. It's so dirty. And yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule. There's definitely some challenges that do change some lives, but it's so rare. And if you gave some truth serum to the coach running the challenge, it'll just come back to marketing and money, not genuine impact, genuine change, genuine results. Because the reward of showing up for your future self and changing your negative ways is a self-respect. Feeling better about yourself, becoming your own best friend, loving who you are, not $2,000 cash. When it comes to looking for a coach, just be very, very aware that you are very vulnerable and that you might read things that are said to bring you in. Of course, a coach that sells courses is going to say about how much they've invested into their own life of buying courses. Of course, a coach who sells business coaching support is going to say how many 10,000s of dollars and months and years they've invested into their own business coaching. Why? Because it creates this FOMO dynamic that, well, this person this coach invested 20 grand into their business coaching. Of course, I could invest 10 grand into my business coaching because I dream to be that coach and they're doing double what I'm doing. So my investment's so much smaller. Like you have to understand sales is so strategized and manipulative. It is diabolical. So I'm in fitness. I'm a coach. I honestly haven't really had a coach, or I haven't had one in half a decade. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, coaches need coaches and factors like that to get you to sign up to coaching. I'm going to tell you that, yeah, I've lost 10 kilos because I'm tracking, that I've gained 30 kilos of strength because I'm overloading my weights, that my self-perception is better because I'm tracking. That's where the authenticity and genuine aspect of the way I approach or envision it to be needs to be. I'm not going to tell you I just invested 15 grand into fitness coaching, so my 3 grand coaching for X amount of weeks seems a lot less daunting and scary. I'm just going to tell you that, yeah, tracking's changed my life because tracking has changed my life. And I like changing lives, so that's why I get my clients to track. But yes, you need to realize that you're very vulnerable. You're in a very potentially manipulative position where the right thing said could be very engulfing and very easy to bring you in. You need to start to even the playing field of aspects. So yeah, if a coach is consistent in the gym, they should be if they're fitness coaching. But that just because they're consistent in the gym doesn't mean they can help you be consistent in the gym. Are they consistent with the things they find hard? Yeah, they are. Okay, they've probably got some great methods to help you be consistent in the things you find hard. Do they embody and deliver life that you admire? Do they hold traits that you would like to obtain? Are they a person you respect and can see as a leader, helping you, guiding you? Are they the person you want walking next to you? Are they an individual that has the skill set to not project onto you their own traumas or struggles or the methods that maybe don't work? You know, I put myself on incredibly low calories because I lose weight the best that way. I don't coach really any of my clients that way unless people need it, but they rarely do. And that's where you got to be mindful. Just because I work that way, I'm not going to project that on you, but a lot of coaches do that. I don't even need to give more examples. I think I've painted the picture pretty well. But essentially, look, this 40-minute podcast isn't to rant about, it probably has been, but it's not to rant about coaches. It's just to elevate the awareness that the coaching industry is real. It's pretty embarrassing. The standard's pretty low. You're very vulnerable. And to soak up the information that you need to hear is so easy to do. And it's, as a coach, I'll be honest, like it's pretty easy to say the right thing. So just be very calculated, very intentional, be very purposeful when looking for a coach, when seeing what you want to gain. Do you want to gain self-respect? Go with a coach that embodies self-respect. Do you need help in business coaching? Go with a coach that has ran multiple successful and unsuccessful businesses. Do you need relationship coaching? Well, is that coach in a relationship? Have they been in a healthy marriage, or are they just a single 25-year-old telling you to do this in a relationship? Like, we need to open our eyes up to what is, not just operate through our emotions of what it seems to be, or what comes easily in our brain on first viewing. Anyway, that is another episode of the Future Self Potty. The next one you'll see, I will be in Bali. I cannot wait for it. Super excited. I'm going to, like I said, get a few guests on. If you tuned in on Spotify, I would love it if you rated the show. It makes a massive, massive, massive difference to me. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. You know that. And if anything I said was out of pocket, we can talk about it in the comments. If anything I said opened your eyes, I would actually like to know what value I gave to you from these points that I made. But that's the most recent episode. I'll see you in the next one.